Some memories don't fade with time. They stay alive inside you, playing like a broken record, making you smile for a second before the ache rises in your chest. Maybe it's someone you once loved deeply, a mistake you keep replaying, or a chance you let slip through your fingers. How many times have you thought, if only I had done it differently? But what you need isn't a second chance to fix the past. It's a first chance to claim your future. This video isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about facing it, walking through it, and finally choosing peace over pain. Because the truth is, you can't write the next chapter of your life if you keep rereading the last one. Today, we're diving into 6 powerful shifts that will help you move on, let go, and live free. Not by force, but with clarity and courage. If something you hear today resonates with you, I invite you to share your story in the comments below, because your voice might be the spark that helps someone else heal. And if this message speaks to your journey, don't forget to subscribe. Every week, we'll walk together toward the most liberated version of yourself. 1. Stop romanticizing the past. It wasn't meant to last. Sometimes I hear an old friend talk about his first love with that faraway look in his eyes and a faint smile on his face. She was the only one who truly understood me, he says. But I always find myself wanting to ask, if it was that perfect, why did you leave? The truth is, many people aren't stuck in the past because they miss the reality. They're stuck because they've built a story around it that's more comforting than the truth ever was. They remember the soft glances, the laughter, the feel of something once beautiful, and they cling to those fragments like they're sacred. But they conveniently forget the silent treatment that left them anxious, the unreturned messages, the nights spent questioning their worth. That's the danger of emotional nostalgia. It edits the pain and highlights only what felt good. It makes you overvalue something that, if you're honest with yourself, didn't value you back the same way. Romanticizing the past is one of the most common emotional traps. It keeps you emotionally attached to moments that don't exist anymore. You end up comparing everything in your present to something that wasn't even whole to begin with. You keep watering a memory, hoping it blooms again, not realizing it was never meant to grow further. And what's worse, it steals your ability to fully live where you are now. It clouds your clarity. It feeds that voice in your head that says you've already lived your best moments, and everything from here on is just a shadow. But that voice is lying. It's not the memory that's beautiful. It's your heart that gave meaning to that moment. That same heart still exists. That same capacity for connection, for love, for joy, that hasn't gone anywhere. But as long as you're idolizing what used to be, you're not making space for what could be. You don't have to betray your memories to move on. You don't have to pretend it didn't matter. But you do need to stop editing the truth just to make it easier to carry. Because when you distort what happened, you risk staying emotionally bound to a fantasy. And fantasies don't heal. They don't build. They don't evolve. They just keep you looking backwards while your future slips quietly out the side door. It's easy to say, the past shaped me, but at some point you need to ask, is it still shaping me, or is it stopping me? If something truly belonged in your present, it would have found a way to remain, but it didn't. And sometimes that silence is your answer. There's no freedom in polishing a closed chapter. You don't have to burn it. Just place it back on the shelf where it belongs, knowing that it served a purpose, taught you something, and led you here. The people who were meant to stay would still be around. The ones who left did so for a reason, even if they never gave you one. And while the reasons may still haunt you, the truth is simpler than you think. It wasn't meant to last. That doesn't make it meaningless. That makes it a season. And like every season, it had a beginning, a middle, and an end. We often believe that if something made us feel alive, then it must have been right. But even things that hurt us can feel familiar. Even things that drain us can feel like home when we've lived in them long enough. So you must be careful not to confuse emotional intensity with emotional safety. You must stop returning to the past like it's a safe haven, when in reality, it's just a place your mind goes because it hasn't fully accepted that the present is unwritten. Letting go doesn't mean erasing the past. It means telling yourself the truth about it. It means breaking the emotional attachment to a version of events that never really existed the way you remember. It means realizing that you don't need to carry what is already ended. It means choosing peace over nostalgia, healing over haunting, and growth over regret. Your energy deserves to be invested in something real, something now. And when you stop looking over your shoulder, when you stop replaying a love story that didn't last, when you stop feeding your emotional energy to a closed door, that's when you begin to open a new one. Don't let the past live rent-free in your mind. Don't keep dragging yesterday into today. You're not abandoning the memory, you're releasing the illusion. The moment you stop romanticizing the past, you create space for the present to surprise you. And trust me, it will. But only if you're brave enough to stop staring at the sunset of what's gone and start walking toward the sunrise of what's possible. 2. You can't heal in the same place that broke you. There was a woman who lived down the street from me, kind, quiet, always with a gentle smile that barely masked the sadness in her eyes. After her divorce, she kept returning to the same little cafe where she and her husband used to spend their Sunday mornings. It makes me feel close to him, she told me once, stirring her coffee slowly, like she was waiting for something to return. But every time she walked out of that place, she was crying. Not the kind of cry that releases you, but the kind that drains you, that keeps you trapped in a moment that's already ended. She believed sitting in the same seat, sipping the same drink, watching the same street view would somehow reconnect her with what she lost. But what she didn't realize was that healing doesn't happen in the middle of memories that keep reopening your wounds. You don't find peace by walking through the same fire that burned you. You just get burned again. This is something many of us do, often without realizing it. We go back to the house where we were hurt, we reread old messages, we listen to that one song again and again, convincing ourselves that it's part of the healing process. But what we're actually doing is anchoring ourselves to the pain, reliving it in high definition while calling it reflection. The truth is, some places, some people, some habits, they're not neutral. They carry emotional weight. They hold echoes of everything you've tried to move past. You can't expect to feel whole in a space that only knows you in pieces. You can't detox from emotional damage while standing knee-deep in the environment that created it. Healing isn't about proving you're strong enough to endure what broke you. It's about knowing you deserve better than to keep walking through the same door, hoping the outcome will change. It's not a strength to sit in the same energy and call it resilience. It's emotional stagnation, and it often comes disguised as loyalty. Loyalty to a place, to a memory, to a version of yourself that no longer exists. But there is nothing noble about clinging to spaces that no longer hold peace. Healing requires space. It requires silence. It requires distance. Not because you're running away, but because you're choosing your emotional freedom over familiar pain. So many people tie their healing to the idea of closure, believing they need to revisit the place of the wound to find clarity. But closure is rarely found in the same place where chaos lives. More often than not, it's found far away from it. When you finally give yourself permission to stop forcing resolution in spaces that were never meant to offer it. You can't expect your mind to rest if it's surrounded by triggers. You can't reclaim your peace if every corner of your life still whispers what you lost. The environment matters, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. If your space is filled with reminders of disappointment, betrayal, or abandonment, then even the most determined mindset will struggle to break through. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is walk away, not with bitterness, but with clarity. It's not about forgetting the past. It's about refusing to keep bleeding for it. You don't need to keep returning to the room where your heart was broken just to prove you've healed. Healing is not a performance. It's a quiet decision to step away from the noise that once defined your pain. There's a reason why new seasons ask for new settings. Your soul knows when it's time to move. Trust that instinct. Stop revisiting places that only remember the version of you that suffered. Let them go. Let them fade. Create new routines, find new routes, choose new coffee shops, take new walks. Because every small shift is a signal to your nervous system that you're safe now, that you're not stuck, that you're not replaying old stories anymore. You can't find emotional freedom in the same space that imprisoned your peace. You can't start a new chapter if you're still standing in the middle of the old one, rereading the pain and hoping it writes itself differently this time. Healing begins when you let go of the idea that you must conquer the place that crushed you. You don't. You just have to choose not to live there anymore. Give yourself the gift of a new space, internally and externally, so your nervous system can reset, so your thoughts can finally breathe, and so your heart can begin to beat for something ahead, not behind. The past had its place, but your healing deserves its own. And that place is forward. That place is peaceful. That place is anywhere but where the pain lives. 3. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's how you set yourself free. A close friend of mine once shared a story that stuck with me. He had been betrayed by a family member, someone he trusted with everything. For 3 years he carried the weight of that betrayal, waiting for an apology that never came. He kept saying, "The moment they say they're sorry, I'll let it go." But that moment never arrived. And one day, with exhaustion in his voice and a heaviness that couldn't be hidden anymore, he looked at me and said, "I'm tired of holding my life hostage, waiting for someone else to admit they were wrong." That was the turning point. That was the moment he realized forgiveness wasn't a favor for them. It was the only way he could finally breathe again. This is the trap so many people fall into. They place their peace on a condition. I will forgive them when they apologize. But what if they never do? What if the person who hurt you doesn't feel guilty? What if they've moved on, built a new life, and convinced themselves they did nothing wrong? Do you stay frozen in pain forever, tied to a moment that still bleeds while they walk away untouched? That's the danger of waiting for an apology. It gives power to the person who hurt you. It makes your healing dependent on their conscience, and too often, that conscience never wakes up. Forgiveness, then, becomes not just a choice, but a lifeline. It's a decision to no longer let someone else's mistake continue to control your emotional state. And no, forgiveness does not mean what they did was okay. It doesn't erase the betrayal. It doesn't minimize the damage. What it does is remove their grip on your future. It tells your heart, you've carried this long enough. You don't owe them anything more. Because every day you spend angry, replaying their words, analyzing what went wrong, or waiting for remorse, you lose time, energy, and presence. And all of that is far too valuable to waste on someone who may never give you closure. The most misunderstood part of forgiveness is this. It's not about reconciliation. You don't have to let them back in. You don't even have to speak to them again. In fact, walking away might be the very act that proves you've forgiven, not because you're punishing them, but because you've made peace inside yourself and no longer need their acknowledgement. Some people mistake that silence for bitterness, but it's not. It's self-protection. It's drawing a boundary that says, I refuse to bleed for your mistake any longer. That's what forgiveness really is, reclaiming your energy from places it was never meant to live in permanently. You see, when you hold on to anger, it becomes an identity. You're no longer just someone who was hurt, you're someone who keeps reliving it. It defines how you see the world. It changes your posture, your relationships, and your tone. You smile, but inside, you're still rehearsing the argument you never got to finish. And that eats at you, not all at once, but slowly, every day. You think about revenge, about justice, about what would finally make things feel fair. But the truth is, fairness may never come. Waiting for it only delays your freedom. There's a moment in healing where you have to decide, do I want to be right or do I want to be free? Because sometimes being right keeps you chained to a moment. Forgiveness cuts that chain. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to move forward. It's a declaration that says, what happened hurt me, but it will not define me. It's a release, a quiet letting go, not with fireworks, but with resolve. And maybe the hardest part isn't forgiving them. Maybe the hardest part is forgiving yourself for staying too long, for ignoring the red flags, for trusting too much, for not seeing it coming. But you have to remember, your healing isn't about being perfect. It's about reclaiming your wholeness. You don't need to carry shame on top of pain. You just need to carry the lesson. That's enough. When you forgive, the bitterness in your tone begins to soften. The tightness in your chest starts to loosen. You no longer wake up with emotional debt. You breathe differently. You think clearly. You feel lighter. That's what freedom feels like. Not a grand gesture, but a gradual return to yourself. Forgiveness isn't a weakness. It's one of the most powerful decisions you can make. Because the moment you choose to let go, you take your power back. Not to forget, not to excuse, but to finally live without the weight of what they did. That's when healing truly begins. That's when you become free. 4. Don't wait for closure. Write your own ending. We grow up with the belief that resolution has to be mutual. That when something ends, especially something that mattered, there must be a final conversation, a full circle moment, a ribbon-tied explanation that makes all the pain make sense. But life rarely works that way. More often than not, people leave quietly. Situations collapse without warning. Words remain unsaid. And what's left behind isn't just the wound, it's the silence that follows. That silence can feel louder than any argument ever could. You replay the last conversation, searching for clues. You imagine scenarios where they say the thing that would help you let go. But the more you wait for their words, the more you delay your own healing. My cousin once told me about the night she sent a message to her ex-boyfriend, almost a year after they had parted ways. She wasn't angry. She wasn't looking to rekindle anything. She just wanted to ask one simple question. Why did you disappear without saying anything? Days passed, no reply. Weeks went by, still nothing. And then one afternoon, she sent me a photo of a page from her journal. At the bottom, she had written, "You don't need to say anything. I've closed that chapter myself." That sentence stuck with me because it captured something most of us struggle with, waiting for closure that may never come, hoping someone else will hand us the permission to move forward. Waiting for closure is like standing at a locked door, hoping the person who slammed it will come back and open it for you. But they rarely do. And even if they did, the explanation wouldn't undo the damage. It wouldn't take back the nights you lost sleep, the tears you cried, the self-doubt you carried. That's because closure isn't about understanding what they did. It's about reclaiming your peace in spite of it. It's about choosing to stop living emotionally anchored to someone else's silence. It's the quiet realization that you don't need their words to validate your pain. You lived it, you survived it, and that survival alone is your proof. Too many people lose years of their lives stuck in the emotional limbo of what if and why. They pause their healing, hold back their happiness, put off new beginnings, waiting for the day someone else decides to make it all right. But that day may never come, and even if it does, it won't change what already happened. The moment you stop seeking closure from others, you start stepping into your own power. You realize that peace isn't something you find in a conversation. It's something you build in solitude. It's found in the decision to stop chasing closure and start creating it. There's strength in saying, "I may never know why, and I'm okay with that." It's not a defeat. It's a declaration that your life will not remain hostage to someone else's decisions. That you refuse to wait in hallways that lead nowhere, that you're done peeking through the cracks of a door that's already closed. Closure doesn't require clarity, it requires courage. The courage to place a period where someone else left a question mark. The courage to say, "This is enough, I'm not carrying this story any further." In a world obsessed with tidy endings and emotional symmetry, it takes strength to walk away incomplete. But some stories were never meant to end neatly. Some were meant to teach you, stretch you, wake you up. And once that purpose is served, your role is not to keep rereading it. It's to turn the page. You don't need a final sentence from someone who no longer sees your value. You don't need a farewell to let go. What you need is the willingness to stop giving your past the microphone. Let that silence be your answer. Let it remind you that not every ending will come with closure. But every ending can come with clarity, if you choose it. You get to decide what stories deserve a sequel and which ones deserve to fade. You are the author now, and maybe the ending you were looking for wasn't something they were supposed to write. Maybe it was something only you could give yourself. So write it. Finish the chapter. Walk forward. Because the longer you wait for them, the longer you deny yourself the peace that's already waiting on the other side. 5. Your new life will cost you your old one. I once knew a woman who left a stable job at 40 to go back to school. She was quiet, dependable, always the one to say yes, to stay late, to put herself last. But one day she told me with a calm certainty in her voice, "I'm not just leaving the job. I'm leaving the version of me that believed I had to shrink to be safe." She cut her hair short. She cleared out her closet. She distanced herself from relationships that no longer aligned with who she was becoming. It wasn't impulsive, it was intentional. She wasn't running away, she was shedding. And in that shedding, she understood something most people never dare to face. You can't build a new life while clinging to the debris of the old one. Transformation isn't poetic when you're in it. It's raw, it's inconvenient. It demands the kind of honesty that burns. You start to see that your old patterns, those people-pleasing habits, the avoidance, the staying quiet to keep peace, are the very chains keeping you in survival mode. And survival is not the same as living. To build something better, you have to tear down the parts of yourself that were built in response to fear, to rejection, to needing approval. But here's the truth most won't tell you. That new version of you, the one who's bold, centered, free, cannot coexist with the old one. One must die for the other to breathe. That is the cost of freedom. You'll lose things. That's inevitable. You'll outgrow friendships that once felt like home, but now sound like echoes from a past life. You'll stop laughing at the same jokes. You'll feel the weight of distance when you choose growth over comfort. And it will be painful. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because your nervous system is still wired to associate familiarity with safety. But not everything familiar is healthy, and not everything comfortable is meant to be kept. Letting go of your old life doesn't always mean dramatic endings. Sometimes it's quiet. You start declining invitations that drain you. You begin speaking up when you used to stay silent. You stop apologizing for taking up space. These small shifts send signals to yourself and to others that the old version of you isn't running the show anymore. But don't expect everyone to clap for your transformation. Some people only know how to love you in your weakness. Your boundaries will confuse them. Your silence will offend them. Your peace will threaten their chaos. And that's okay. You're not responsible for shrinking to keep others comfortable. You are responsible for honoring your growth. Releasing the old version of yourself isn't betrayal, it's alignment. It's saying, I respect who I had to be to survive, but I'm ready to live now. You can honor your past without being held hostage by it. The problem is that many people want a better life without paying the cost. They want peace without pruning. They want confidence without detachment. But that's not how reinvention works. You have to say no to things that once felt like your identity. You have to walk away from dynamics that once felt like love, but were really just patterns of emotional debt. At some point, you'll look back and realize the breakthrough didn't come from adding something new. It came from releasing what was no longer true. The job title, the relationship, the version of you that was built around wounds instead of worth. All of it has to go. You can't carry your new self in a container built for your old fears. It cracks, it spills, it rots. So let it cost you. Let it cost you the false stability. Let it cost you the convenient approval. Let it cost you the illusion of being understood by everyone. Because what you gain in return is something more valuable than comfort. Clarity, self-respect, emotional independence. And when you step fully into your new life, unburdened by outdated versions of yourself, you'll find a kind of peace that doesn't beg to be maintained. It just exists. You'll realize the door was never locked. You were just holding on too tightly to the handle behind you. And the truth is, nothing truly aligned with your future will require you to stay small, stay silent, or stay broken. So yes, your new life will cost you your old one, but it will be the best deal you've ever made. Let go, rebuild, become. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Your freedom is waiting. But first, you must stop mourning a version of yourself that was never meant to last. 6. Let the scar be a symbol of strength, not a source of pain. A scar is not a wound, it's what's left after the wound has closed. It's the skin's way of saying, yes, this hurt, but it didn't kill me. And yet so many people treat their emotional scars as if they're still bleeding. They press on them, reopen them, use them as reasons to stay guarded, distant, bitter. But healing doesn't mean pretending it never happened. It means acknowledging that it did, and then choosing to keep living anyway. The pain changed you, yes, but if it only left you smaller, angrier, or colder, then it still owns you. The real test of healing is not whether you forget the pain, it's whether you can look at the scar and see strength instead of shame. Too often, we let our past pain become our identity. We start to describe ourselves by what we survived. The one who got cheated on, the one who was abandoned, the one who was never enough. But those are not titles, they're traps. And every time you repeat that story, you reinforce the idea that you are still there. You're not, you're here. The scar is no longer a warning, it's a reminder. A quiet proof that you endured what tried to break you. It's not there to hurt you. It's there to show you how far you've come. Still, there's a temptation to keep living through the lens of the pain. We use it as a defense. I can't trust again because of what happened. I can't love again because of who left. I can't dream again because of what failed. But the scar didn't say that. The scar says you've already survived the worst day. The scar says you were cut open and still healed. The scar says your strength is not theoretical, it's lived. And if you're still breathing, then you're not broken, you're becoming. Emotional resilience isn't about being untouched. It's about being touched deeply and still choosing to get up, choosing to show up, choosing to try again. Yes, some nights will still echo. Yes, some memories will sting when you least expect it. But you're not required to flinch forever. You don't owe your trauma permanent space in your identity. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself the kind of freedom that doesn't mean forgetting, but does mean you stop using pain as the reason to stay stuck. Because as long as the scar keeps telling you not to trust, not to hope, not to feel, you haven't healed. You've just paused. Think about how much energy you've spent explaining your fears by pointing back to your wounds. Think about how many moments you missed because you were still mentally defending the territory around your heart. Pain can be a great teacher, but it's a terrible landlord. You're not meant to live in the lesson. You're meant to learn it, carry it, and then move forward. The scar becomes powerful when you stop hiding it and start honoring it. Not by showing it to everyone, but by living in a way that says, this didn't end me. And that's where true confidence is born. Not from perfection, but from survival with grace. No one walks through life without bruises, but some people use theirs as shields, while others turn them into bridges. Your scars can isolate you, or they can connect you. They can make you bitter, or they can make you wise. The difference is in how you choose to see them. You can either let them keep defining what you can't do, or let them inspire you to see what else you're capable of. So when you catch yourself staring at the past, at the thing that broke you, remind yourself, the wound is not the whole story. The scar is, and it's not ugly, it's not weak, it's not shameful. It's the proof you've already done the hard part. The bleeding stopped, the chaos ended. What's left is you, and all the strength you didn't know you had. So stand tall, carry your scar with quiet pride. And when the world asks what happened, you don't have to explain. Just smile and keep walking, because strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's just the steady heartbeat of someone who chose to live again. Letting go of the past isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about breaking the emotional attachment that keeps you stuck in old stories, replaying pain that no longer serves you. Whether it's heartbreak, betrayal, or regret, the path to emotional freedom begins when you stop looking back for answers and start building forward with intention. Every scar you carry is proof that you've survived. Now it's time to stop surviving and start living. You don't need closure to move on. You don't need apologies to reclaim your peace. What you need is a clear decision to stop letting yesterday's pain write tomorrow's story. By choosing to forgive, release emotional baggage, and create new habits that support your healing, you open the door to inner peace and strength. This isn't about weakness, It's about wisdom. You can't change the past, but you can change how it lives inside you. And that's where your power is. If this video spoke to your heart, we'd love to hear your story. Share your journey or a turning point that helped you move forward in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more powerful messages on healing, growth, and how to finally let go of the past for good.